Sega scrubbing is the theme of today as we continue restoring the cheapest Mega-Tech on eBay. Did I get a bargain, or have I spent £200 on a box of e-waste? Hello cave dwellers, welcome into the cave as we continue the restoration of our rare Sega Mega-Tech arcade. I'm really enjoying getting stuck into this one, and we are going to get dirty today as we focus on some of the key components, namely the system board itself and that main 20-inch monitor. That's what I want to tackle today. If you haven't seen the start of the series, please go and check out part 1 now using the link below, or possibly up there if I remember to put it up there, where you'll learn what the Sega Mega-Tech is. We strip it down and we take a look at what's unique about the games, and one game in particular. No spoilers, go back and watch that, and then you can pick up the series here. This arcade and every single part in it needs cleaning to within an inch of its life, and I'm going to tackle that today with the help of friends here at the Retro Collective, Richard, Holly and Alex, and between us I think we can make a good go at restoring this back to its full and former glory. And please do keep in mind when you're watching this video that I am documenting a restoration. It is not an instructional video on how to work on things like CRTs and associated high voltages. I'm leaning into the experience of the people around me here at the Retro Collective to help me. And I would encourage you to do the same if you're not confident in working on these things. Lean into the experience of somebody who knows what they're doing so that nobody gets hurt. Okay, we're going to start with the system board, and that involves Richard's help up here in the cave, and the start of a lot of cleaning in this episode, which means we're going to need gloves. We're going to need a lot more gloves than that. That's better, and let's begin. It's that part of the episode where I say a big thank you to PCBWay.com for supporting the channel and making projects like this possible. If you're working on your own project and you need PCB manufacturing, 3D printing, CNC work and much more besides, then PCBWay.com is the place to go. And while you're there, make sure you check out their shared project section, which is just rammed full of projects to support vintage hardware. It's well worth a look. Thank you, PCBWay.com. Richard's going to help us today with the wiring loom, the system board, some of the power components that need a clean, and we'll probably test the power components in part 3, so we'll clean it, but we'll put that to one side for today. Richard's worked in the electronics manufacturing industry for over 3 decades. He designs and he makes PCBs, so I'm really keen to learn what techniques he uses when he's faced with a board like this. But we first need to clean it before we can work on it. And we want to preserve some parts like the serial number. Yeah, some of you spotted that in part 1. And that label's attached to the CPU, so we're just applying a little bit of heat to reactivate the glue, and then we can peel it off, and we'll be sure to put that back on later. Next, Richard began brushing off the dry dirt from the board using a range of brushes to work around the components while avoiding damage. And slowly but surely, the board began to reveal its secrets. We learned in part 1 that this whole system is based on the Mega Drive hardware, which has a 68,000 CPU and a Z80. But on this Mega-Tech, as we were cleaning it, we found that it has not one but 2 Z80s. And that's because one of them operates the top 10-inch screen. That's the screen with the game menu and the instructions that pop up when you're playing the game. It can't depend on the usual Z80 to do that because that would take away from the needed processing power in the games themselves. So it's got a separate dedicated Z80 just for that top screen. The cleaning continues. Oh, there's so much cleaning in this episode. The cleaning continues all around the board, and with brushes we do make good progress, but it's still pretty filthy. So what Richard uses for the next stage of cleaning is window cleaner. Liberal amounts of window cleaner all over the board. This particular brand that he's using here is Mr. Muscle. And I swear that's Richard himself on the label. He just needs a pair of orange goggles.
Looks a bit like you, Mr. Muscle.
The window cleaner is sprayed all over the board, and I'm also getting stuck in there with some paper towel to wipe around the cartridge slots and get some of those more stubborn patches of dirt, nicotine, spilled cola, whatever else it is on this board. It's a real interesting mix. Some comes off easily, some's very sticky and horrible. The next step is to neutralize the vinegar that's found in the window cleaner. That's done its job, but we don't want to leave it on the board, so we want to make sure it's all rinsed off. We'll do that with some clean brushes and lots of isopropyl alcohol. We're just wiping that all over the board with the brushes, and look at that sludge, that PCB slurry coming off of the board. It's disgusting. It took a bit of elbow grease, but these are tried and tested techniques, and we've quickly turned a biohazard into a beautifully clean board. So I'll definitely be using these again. And if you're wondering what those plastic chunks are on the cartridge slots, you need to look no further than a cartridge itself. As you can see, when I turn it over, one side has more space than the other. It simply stops you from putting them into the cartridge slot the wrong way round. It's nice as well, you can see if you look closely, they still have their original protective film on them. Those slots also got a clean to make sure they make good contact with the cartridges when they go in, and then Richard wanted to test what he suspected would be the most likely points of failure on the board.
All of these little EMC protectors, and they can short out, so it's worth just checking that all of those. It's not going to do too much for powering it on, but we'll know if any are short, it's likely that it's something to do with the inputs.
When he was doing this, we noticed a header labelled gun. Now, I can't find any information in the service manual about this, but it wouldn't surprise me if a light gun was planned for the cabinet. I can't find any evidence of one existing. Of course, there was the Mega Drive Menacer light gun. Perhaps they would have used that. Perhaps they would have used a more traditional looking light gun that would have holstered on the side of the cabinet. That would have made more sense in an arcade setting, but I can't see that it ever existed. So if you've got any more information on that, please send me some pointers, because I'd like to include it in the next episode and we can all learn what was that gun slot for. Anyway, Richard worked his way around the board, checking everything that he suspected would be a common point of failure, and we were pleasantly surprised to find that everything checked out. This was great news, and we were now confident enough to test the board. But first, we wanted to make sure it was completely dried off from all that cleaning, so we popped it in the oven. This drying oven is set to 40 degrees C. We'll pop it in for an hour, and then we'll come back and we'll test it.
Just climb up slowly. Flattening out an arcade piece.
We'll come back in an hour.
We were off to a good start then. I was really pleased with how that came up and to learn Richard's techniques for cleaning. And now we turn our attention to the 20-inch monitor. So take a breather if you have a phobia to dirt, because there's about to be a hell of a lot more. And if you've never seen a CRT monitor take a bath, well, you're about to. A quick scone break. No cream today, sorry. And we're down into the arcade archive with Holly and Alex to clean up and test the screen. The CRT is a Hanterex MTC 9000 model supporting 50 and 60 Hz inputs according to the label on the neck here. And first we're going to need to separate the tube from the chassis so we can work on those two parts. The PCB and the chassis is what I want to clean up first, and I came to the arcade bearing news of Richard's cleaning techniques and wanted to set about applying them here. Stiff brushes, soft brushes, everything but hairbrushes is in my toolbox now for this job. As I was cleaning the board, I came across a fuse and we decided to check that out on the meter. It could use a little cleanup too, but the meter says it's intact. That's a good sign. It's an indication that the last time it was used, it wasn't blown up. So there is hope that this may be a working monitor. Back to cleaning the board then, and we're using those techniques that we saw earlier. Of course, starting with window cleaner, getting that all over the board and giving it a good old brush, and then followed by IPA and another thorough brush with that. We're not holding back, we're absolutely covering this thing in IPA to get rid of all the window cleaner. All the dirt comes off. I'm also just twizzling any pots to make sure they're good. They don't seem crunchy, that's all good. Yummy. Bottles of Mega-Tech bathwater will be available in the gift shop soon. And as this board was so caked in filth, I wanted to just add an extra step to the process here. This time I rinsed it down with a squirt of distilled water, just making sure all of the window cleaner's off, getting into those harder to reach spots, any excess IPA, although most of the IPA will just evaporate off eventually anyway. Happy with how that was looking, I headed back to the main building to clear my head of IPA fumes, a quick walk outside, and then I popped it into the oven to dry. But wait, I hear you say, where's the other stuff that you put in the oven? Well, that, my friends, is the magic of editing. Let's go back to Richard in the cave. While Richard was waiting for the system board to dry off, we used that time to strip down the control panel, as we'll be applying new artwork to this as well as the rest of the cabinet, so all the buttons and the joysticks need to be out of the way for that. And that artwork has now arrived from the arcade art shop. Here's a little sample of it. There's a lot more besides, but you can see here the control panel artwork that we'll be applying here. It looks gorgeous. There's a mixture of red and black cherry micro switches in here and a very, very tidy wiring loom. That's nice to see. The switches aren't necessarily original, as they are easily replaced when they fail, and that would have been a routine part of maintaining any arcade machine at the time for the techs in charge of servicing them. What a cool job that would have been at the height of arcade fever, being an arcade tech. The buttons are a bit faded, in particular the yellow ones, as you can see here, and the white ones, they're a bit grimy too. We could try cleaning them up, but I think for that fully restored new look, and because buttons and micro switches were so common to be serviced and replaced on an arcade, there's no guarantee that these are the originals, so I'd be quite happy to put new ones in here. The joysticks are quite interesting on this control panel. When we pulled them out, we found that they were made by MCA Australia, and a quick search showed me that it would appear that they were the standard stick in a lot of Australian arcades back in the day, and plenty of our friends down under speak very highly of them. The Mega-Tech was sold to the Australian market, so it's probably quite fitting to keep them in here. And if I just compare it to the other Mega-Tech that I've got here, the ball tops on the Australian joysticks are a lot smaller than the other ones. And if we look at our pamphlet, we can see different joysticks again. Those are silver sticks with a completely different top to them. So it's difficult to say which is right. I would like to keep the Australian sticks in here. So that's stripped down, and when we get onto the episode where we deal with the cosmetics of the machine, it's all ready to be worked on. Let's get back to scrubbing. And what we're cleaning now is the wiring loom. The whole lot is dumped into a great big vat of car shampoo and warm water, and it's going to get a thoroughly good scrub by Mr. Muscle himself. I think we can get this clean enough without having to unbundle the whole wiring loom, but of course, when it comes to inspecting the loom before we plug it in and use it, if we have to unbundle it to fix a few things, then we will. We know we have to fix the power cable on it, and we'll check for any other bits, but I'm happy with that. We'll give it a good dip in some clean water to rinse off any remaining soapy suds. And there's no prizes for guessing where this is going next. We're nearly ready to test the system board now, but I just wanted to do a last bit of dirty work while we had all of the kit out in the cave, and that was working on the transformer and the board with the power supply on it. Of everything that we've worked on so far while cleaning this all up, the power supply is surprisingly the cleanest of the lot. If we peer inside, it just doesn't look like it's got anywhere near as much dirt as the rest of the things that we've touched. I wonder if this was a more recent replacement in its lifetime. That's the dirty work done in the cave today, so we can put all of those power components to one side and test it in the next episode. The main reason I'm not doing it today is because I want the wiring loom to dry out. We want to change the power cable on that and just check it over and then test everything together. The board, hopefully the monitor, the wiring loom and the power supply, so we can see the full guts of the machine are all working together before we turn our attention to the cabinet. But we are going to test the system board today. And we can test that because we have a known good power supply in our other working Mega-Tech cabinet. So we can just swap out the board and test our cleaned up board to see if it works in there. Richard yanked out the board in that cabinet and then mounted our clean one in there.
We'll check all these are all lined up properly before we switch them on.
And it was time for the moment of truth, a power on test on our previously filthy board.
Yep. Ooh, credit click, monitor flash. Menu. It's looking all right. So insert coin. Can't find anything.
Okay, should we put game in?
Do you normally see 6?
I don't know, I've never powered it up with nothing in there.
Yeah.
So here's how it unfolded. When we had 4 cartridges plugged in, we saw 4 cartridges and 6 slots, not 8 slots, and it ran those games perfectly. Amazingly, under all of the dirt that we cleaned off, the inputs, the audio, the cartridge slots, everything is working. Everything seems functional on our board here. Our dirt cheap, dirt filled Mega-Tech board seems to be working. And in testing, we learned that the Mega-Tech version of Outrun is the Master System game. Imagine playing that in an arcade next to a real Outrun cabinet, choosing to put your money in the Master System version and not the arcade original. That is surely a sign of madness. What this does tell us though is that the Z80 used for Master System games is also working, as is the one powering the top screen. So we've got our 68,000 and our 2 Z80s working. Brilliant. What about that 6 slot issue?
Okay, let's see what we get. Will we get 8 slots?
Yeah!
8 slots! Oh, well, we might as well test them.
It's not an issue at all. We simply had to put more than 6 games in and then the additional slots appeared. It just seems to be a quirk of the system. We've got all 8 slots working. We set the dip switches to free play and gave it a thorough test. And I'm so pleased to see this working with, well, no problems at all. And while Richard was having fun, I decided to take the chance to clean up the board that we took out of the working Mega-Tech just to give it a quick service. It was a bit dusty and I noticed something different about it. This one has a daughter board in one of the Z80 sockets. Now I checked it in the service manual and it's called a piggy board. It doesn't say what it does, but I would hazard a guess that it's some kind of bookkeeping facility with a port to plug in and download from. So if anyone's got more details on this, let me know. I'd like to learn what this is. But it looks like it's in the Z80 slot with the Z80 piggybacked on it, which controls that top screen. So it's probably bookkeeping what games are played, how long they're played for, how much money goes through it, that sort of thing. And then somebody can come along, plug in a device into that port there and download the information. Possibly. What I do know is that it's one more thing to go wrong. So we can simply remove it and just put the Z80 in the slot and keep that to one side. Our work up in the cave today is done and we will be back to tackle the remaining parts next time. But let's pop down to the arcade archive and carry on working with our monitor to see if we have as much success down there as we have done in the cave. So I cleaned the chassis board up earlier and popped that in the oven, and now it's the tube itself that we want to give a clean. So we need to remove that from the frame. Now don't take it as a given that you can treat any tube like this. Some, particularly older ones, have a water-soluble coating on the outside of the tube, so if you wash it, you're going to wash that off and cause problems. So do, again, as I said earlier, lean on the experience of those who know better, as I am, and just double check that because you don't want to cause damage through cleaning it. Holly is cleaning around the anode hole here with some IPA and then plugging it with an old cap that we have laying around because we don't want to fill that with water when we're cleaning it. And then we'll head outside to give it a thorough wash down. That's getting a thorough clean, and if we look up closely, those brown or copper marks that you can see on the tube there, that's actually on the inside of the tube. That's not dirt on the outside that we're trying to wash off on this occasion. And finally, the chassis needs a clean. That's nice and easy. It's just a great big hulking lump of metal that we'll clean off and we'll rinse down. Holly finishes off the cleaning process with some fingertip cleaning of the tube, And then when we're happy everything is dry, with a helping hand from the blower just to get things moving in the harder to reach places, we can then put it all back together. The next question is, how do you safely test a monitor that might not have been turned on for 20 or 30 years? Well, it's a question we've had to answer owing to all the arcade repairs that happen down here, and we've put together a contraption to give us a fighting chance of not blowing them up. And if we can get this one going, I've got a feeling it's going to have a wonderful picture. Because of the nature of the Mega-Tech, it cycles through games instead of showing one game over and over for long periods. There's no burning at all. Anyway, how Holly tests CRTs drew plenty of interest from everyone here because she'd created a new contraption. Behold, the CRT Tester 4000. What the hell is this? Well, I asked Holly to run me through it, and here's what she said. This is a simple way to limit the current that goes into the CRT, or in fact any device that we plug into this box, and to prevent a dead short. Quite simply, power goes into it from the left, and our devices plug into it on the right. The switch at the bottom is the bypass, so if we turn that on and bypass everything that's going on, it's just like plugging directly into the wall. But with the bypass off, it first routes through the light bulb sockets, so nothing will happen until we plug at least one light bulb in. We're then using the internal resistance of the light bulbs to limit the current. Any excess energy will be expelled as heat and light. In this instance, we're using up to 6 15-watt bulbs to give us a nice granular increment. However, other bulbs could be used for different steps that you want to take. And here is a simple circuit diagram that Holly's knocked up so that I can further illustrate it for you. So what we're doing is slowly easing the CRT into life and not giving it a jolt of current all at once. It's much kinder to these old monitors. There is a proper device for this called a Variac, and this is basically a crude DIY version of that to achieve the same thing. So let's test our CRT. We have 110 volts coming in via transformer because that's what our CRT is rated at. We'll switch it on and our first bulb comes on. So the CRT is drawing current. With each bulb that we add, we're allowing it to draw a little bit more. At 4 bulbs, they start to pulse. And that's because the EHT or extra high tension circuit is trying to fire up now in the CRT, but it still doesn't have enough to fully kick into life, but the electrons are flowing. The 6th bulb goes in and they're still pulsing because we're still limiting the current to below what its working threshold is. But at this point, let's measure the high voltage on the tube. We're reading about 10 kilovolts. This is great as there is now a high voltage reading on the CRT. It's not as high as we'd expect it to be in normal operation. When we hit the bypass, it jumps up to nearly 20 kilovolts, which Holly says is around the expected normal output that we would want to see on this monitor. So this is looking very promising indeed. To see if we could get an image on the screen, we carried it back up here to the cave and used that mule cabinet that we're using to test our components. The board that we worked on earlier is still in there, so we're going to test that in combination with the monitor that we've cleaned up. Here's Holly popping it in the machine now. We powered it on. And we've got a 100% success rate today. Not only is it working, the picture on this thing is just glorious. It's like the day it came out of the factory. Absolutely no burning, it's bright, it's colourful. This might be the best screen I've ever seen Mega Drive games on. It is gorgeous. And it leads me to conclude without a shadow of a doubt that this was money well spent on this cabinet. Even if we can't fix anything else, we've done really well with the board and with the monitor. But of course I don't want to stop here. We've got that second 10-inch monitor with the broken neck. That's going to be a more involved restoration in our next episode. We've got the power transformer and power supply to look at. We've got the wiring loom to check out. And of course, the cabinet to sort out to put it all back together and have a Mega-Tech that looks like new. I hope you've enjoyed the restoration so far. I think we've got 1, 2, if not 3 episodes still in this. So there's a lot of work to do. It was -5 last night, so I'm hoping for some better weather so I can work on that cabinet outside in the car park. Hopefully that will happen in the coming weeks, and I hope you'll join us for it. In the meantime, that Mega-Tech is going to stay in situ, or at least the board and the monitor that we fixed up are going to stay in that cabinet for the weekend. It'll be put through its paces by the visitors as a kind of soak test, see if they can break it this weekend, and we'll pick up our restoration from there. As always, if you would like to come and try it out for yourself, head to retrocollective.co.uk when you can see when I open this place up. Come and have a cup of tea with me and challenge me to a game on the Mega-Tech, and we'll see if we can break it. And if you really like what we're doing here and would like to support both the museum and the channel, head to patreon.com/RMC Retro, where you can chip in a little bit to help us to keep the lights on and keep everything running smoothly here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.